Howdy y'all, and welcome to another episode of The Paint Along with your host, Leilani Joy. This is the show where you can paint along with me in real time while I answer your art and not so art related questions. So go grab something to work on, or your homework, or paper mache, whatever it is you want to do, and let's work on it together. And I'm kind of in a hurry to jump into my little box because I'm having what I like to call a triple L day, which means lazy lips and lashes, and I'm not wearing any other makeup. I'm at that like lovely point in the winter where my skin is just like crazy irritated and dry, and every time I try to put my foundation on, I look like a Renaissance painting cracking all over creation. So I'm not going to get too close to the camera. It doesn't look too bad with like really, really strong lights on me. But hey, I just couldn't bring myself to do a full face today. So anyway, I have a piece that I'm so stoked about. So I'm going to go up into the camera and get started on this piece. So let's take a look. Okay, so here is my sketch that I wanted to share with you guys. Some of you have seen the progress of this on Instagram. But as you can see, I'm doing a Lady Death piece, which I'm calling it Lady Death right now. But she's kind of a hybrid between sort of the Dia de los Muertos and the Grim Reaper, kind of. So this is going to be for the Bad Apple auction, which the theme this month is Something Wicked This Way Comes. And I watched the movie. I didn't have time to read the book. I did hear that the book was better. But I just kind of watched the movie really quickly to familiarize myself with the theme because I actually did not know what that was. And it was crazy. That movie was the weirdest. It was so weird. I was hoping it was going to be like kind of like nostalgic kid horror movie. Like, sorry, I'm adjusting my chair. Like The Witches, something like that. But it was like much sloppier and like more low budget than that. It was actually like it was a Disney made movie, I think in the late 80s. And it's like about this creepy like carnival that comes to town and these kids and I don't know, something with their dad is like fearing death or something. I don't know. It is quite abstract and some very bizarre drug trippy kind of imagery. But what I took from that is there was a very strong theme of death in the film and the father sort of fearing his own mortality. So this is not a character in the story or book per se. So I'm doing slightly my own interpretation of the theme. So that's a little background for you. And I have already done a color comp here. Let's see if you can see this. I'll bring it up a little bit. And this is basically kind of a photo bash concept sketch that I did using different photos and doing some Photoshop painting on top of it. I sometimes do this. It's really a fast way to kind of like get my ideas out. And I sometimes find that this is faster than just sketching because I'm finding more that in my process, I'm kind of like, I'm analytical and I like to like put puzzle pieces together and move shapes around, and you can't really do that so much with sketching. It's just something interesting I'm learning about myself in process, because some people really, really love to just raw sketch, and I sometimes find that frustrating because I feel like I don't have control over it. So sometimes I really like, this is actually several different photos, different poses, one main kind of picture for the head, and then a hand that I actually took a picture of my own hand. So I kind of Frankensteined this photo collage together, and then I put some colors over it to create my color comp. And then at the bottom here I have some samples of some colors which I'm going to mix with paint and interpret that onto my painting here. So that's kind of where I'm at. I have already, I've already done the transfer for you guys, so you won't have to watch that super boring part today. And you can see it transferred actually really, really nice. I'm happy with this one. Sometimes, I don't know what happens, but sometimes I do the transfer and I'm like, oh, like something just gets lost. Things shift around. It's kind of like, transferring is a lot kind of like playing telephone. You get most of the message there, but something is kind of lost in the initial meaning sometimes. And that's why I always recommend to you guys that when you're using Sorrel, which is this transfer paper stuff, to think consciously when you're transferring and think of the transfer like you're drawing. It'll keep your lines a little bit cleaner and not so like jerky, like you're tracing, really trying to trace precisely. So that might help keep some of the initial energy in your transfer. Okay, so I'm going to start with questions. And I'm going to start, I've got a little mini muffin tin today that's serving as my palette. And I'm going to mix a few colors to match on my color comp. And actually, no, you know what? I'm going to, yeah, I am going to do that. Okay, so I'm going to mix up a few colors and then we'll get to some questions. Okay, so I went ahead and mixed up my colors, and I didn't think that would be super interesting for you guys to watch me just stirring paint. So I did that for a few minutes, and now I'm back. And I actually did pretty good doing some little swatches to match my tiny little color palette there. And I want this kind of like murky, like greenish gray. I don't know. Like I kind of came across this palette like sort of by accident, just experimenting around. And I like it, so I'm going to try to recreate it as much as I can. And I'm going to just kind of paint. Like, I love that idea. And just do some kind of just painterly strokes back here in the background. And, yeah, and not think about it too much, which is always kind of nice. Okay, so while I begin, I'm going to start with my questions. And one moment, I'm gonna put my comp up here where I can see it. Okay, so my first question today comes from Zamara G. And Zamara says, I love watching your paint-alongs. You're really skilled. Thank you. Thank you for saying skilled. I'm about to go on a tangent. Because actually, I know, I'll get to your question in just a minute, Zamara, I swear to God. But I had a really interesting thought the other day, and I wanted to share it with you guys. And even though this is totally not even your question at all, that just made me think of it. Is I had somebody, I think it was just like a family member or something on Facebook, and they're like, oh, you're so talented. You're so lucky that you're so talented. And people say that a lot to artists. And I just think talented is a really interesting word, because I have personally... I struggle with that word talent, because the reason I do is because that I think that most people who are really good at something, most people, earned it, and they worked really hard for it, and they put in hours and hours of practice and refinement to get to where they are. And I sometimes feel like talent it's just something you're born naturally with. I certainly don't feel like I was born naturally with artistic talent, per se. I was not a child prodigy of any kind at all. And, when I got to art school, it was a bit of a rude awakening, because I realized that I was actually behind a lot of students, I thought. And I had people tell me I was talented, but I think that I was more driven than talented. I worked at it really hard. Even as a little kid, I practiced all the time, and I enjoyed doing it, and I wanted to get better. So I think really my credit would probably be more to my ambitiousness and into wanting to improve, not a natural artistic talent. I don't know if that makes sense. Have you guys ever thought about this? Like, because, like, athletes is probably a good example, because a lot of them, they are naturally, like Michael Phelps, his body type is naturally better for swimming. And some of his is talent, but some of his is just honed skill and training and practice and hours and hours and hours. So I know people totally don't mean it as an insult at all, and I don't take it as an insult, but I kind of feel like I prefer other words than talented. And I almost feel like talented is like what you say to your, about your friend's kids. Like, oh, he's really talented, And it's like, well, that's great. And some people really do have a natural talent. Maybe singing is one of those things. But for artists, especially, I think a lot of ours is a honed skill. So, I don't know, just some food for thought. I love to see what you guys think about it. I'm thinking about writing kind of like a blog about it because I just think it's kind of an interesting question that a lot of people who are professional artists are told that they're talented, and I think it discredits the amount of effort it takes at times. That's just, anyways. Sorry, Samara. Let me get to your actual question, but thank you for reminding me of that because, I don't know, it was something that I'd made a note about. I'm like, I want to tell my paint along people about that and see what they think. She says, have you heard of Steven Universe? I think it would be something you would really love. I feel like I've heard that word before, but to be honest with you, I'm not sure what it is. Is it a cartoon? I feel like it's an animated thing. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that one tomorrow. I actually don't know what it is. Or, well, if my phone was around, we could find out. Hold on. Hey Siri, what is Steven Universe?
I found something about Steven Universe on Wikipedia.
It's an
to read that to you.
Yes.
Steven Universe is an American animated television series created by Rebecca Sugar for Cartoon Network.
Ooh.
It is the coming-of-age story of a young boy named Steven Universe, who lives in the fictional town of Beach City with the crystal gems Pearl, Garnet, and Amethyst, 3 magical humanoid aliens. Steven, who is half gem, goes on adventures with his friends and helps the gems protect the world from their own kind.
Oh my god. Wow. Thank you, Siri. Yeah, okay. That sounds pretty awesome. And I love that it was created by a lady artist. That's pretty cool. So I'll look into it. Wow. It's so amazing what we can find out instantly now. Okay. Next I have a question from Zoe2. And Zoe2 asks, how do you deal with the haters and people who don't approve of what you draw? Because a lot of people tell me that I should draw more things instead of girls. I love your art and your new hairstyle. I guess she was talking about my hair on my last video. I'll talk about my hair later, but thank you. Oh God, this, I know I've kind of answered probably kind of about this before, and it's a really tough subject, and I've been thinking a lot about it for many reasons, especially in the Facebook political climate. People certainly have a lot of very strong opinions, and it gets hard to deal with people online not having any kind of filter. I'm sure many of you know what I'm talking about and have dealt with it yourself, that it's in real life, people are less likely to say, I don't like that sucks, you're wrong, that, because they actually have to see a human being's reaction. But I do find that online, man, people do not have much of a filter, because I guess they just don't have to. I've told you guys before that YouTube, especially, I don't know why, is just a breeding ground for haters and people just saying whatever it is that comes to their mind. I just recently deleted some that I was like, okay, calm it down. And people really do like to tell me what they think, and a lot of times that's a good thing. We can grow as artists from that, and it makes me sometimes think about how I want to approach a different project. But sometimes I will pronounce a word incorrectly, and people will go insane, and it's like, okay, dude, I don't practice this. I'm not and I don't even pretend to be some kind of scholar that never says a word wrong. But I think you just have to, I know it sounds cheesy, but you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. I did have instructors when I was in school tell me that I would never have a career drawing female art. I literally was told that, and I was very, very discouraged, because at that time when I was still in school, I was seeing amazing artists like Audrey Kawasaki and Sylvia G and a lot of these incredible female painters, and I had instructors who I respected telling me that I could never do that, and that was scary to me, but it was also a challenge to me. And the more I kept doing it, I was like, this is what I feel passionate about, and this is what I want to keep doing. So I just basically ignored that advice. I did, when I was first starting out, I did have to do things that I didn't necessarily feel passionate about, but you have to do what you got to do to earn a living as well. So you can't always do just one thing, especially when you're starting out. And if you go to art school, they're going to encourage you to learn how to draw other things other than just female art. And so, I mean, on a side note, I do think there's value in learning the foundations of drawing and not just getting comfortable doing one thing, because there will be times where you'll be challenged and have to do something outside of your comfort zone. So I have in my class, I do teach what I feel are important foundations. I don't force people to draw vases over and over again, but I do think that it's important to know some basic understanding of light and shadow, basic anatomy, things like that, so you're up for a challenge. So, if someone is really, who cares if they approve of your art? You can just be like, well, noted, but I'm not seeking your approval. So just try to ignore it. And if it's on YouTube especially, literally ignore it. Don't respond. Don't engage. Because trolls, as they are, that's what they want. Most of them, they just want to try and engage someone online and get in an argument, because that is entertainment for them. So I've definitely learned to separate myself from that. I don't have time. People who are doing good things and improving their portfolios and working hard for their goals don't have time to be arguing with trolls online. And if you're trolling online, then you're really not going to be successful, because it takes a hell of a lot of hours and work to do what we do, those of us that want to pursue this as a career. So we don't have time to be going around judging others. So think of it that way and just be proud. Be like, well, that person, they don't have anything better to do. So you're here with me on the paint along, and we have solidarity and putting in the hard work. So be proud of that. That was kind of a run-on answer, and I think I kind of covered a few different things. But, it's how I feel. And I do get a lot of people that don't think I do anything. I met someone recently at it was a lot of different artists meeting up and stuff. And I sometimes feel out of place at those things, because a lot of times there's a lot of egos going on and a lot of posturing, and I'm this and I'm that. And one person who I won't mention, they were like, oh, well, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I said what I did, and I was like, I teach, and she's like, you're an artist too, you're a YouTube artist. It was very condescending, and I'm like, okay, you don't know me, you're passing judgment on me. And she just decided that wasn't impressive to her, and I'm like, all right, well, I don't really need your approval, because I've got 50,000 subscribers, girl, okay? I don't know how many you got. I should look it up. Okay, next question. So I jumped ahead a little bit and filled in a little bit more background here. And now I'm ready to go to my next question, which this is from Divine Arts, and I guess it's more of a comment, really, but she says, yes, steampunk. I would love to see you work in that theme. It would be awesome. Steampunk. Yeah, still get a lot of requests for that one. I don't know. I will at some point. It keeps never quite fitting into what I'm doing at the time. It's definitely one of my most requested themes, so I'll definitely look into it. I guess the only reason I haven't really pursued it to any significant degree is that I don't typically find myself drawn to those kind of palettes, the orangey browns and neutrals. I do have she's not around here, but my Victorian painting Josephine, she was inspired by steampunk palettes, which I actually really did enjoy. So I may give that a whirl. If you guys want. I don't know. I just recently finished watching Westworld. Would be kind of interesting to do like a steampunk kind of interpretation of that or something. Any of you guys watching that? I had a kind of a love-hate relationship with this show. I won't spoil anything if you haven't watched it. I did really enjoy the show. I thought the theme was really, really interesting. But I thought certain things kind of like didn't make sense or fell apart. But still liked it. Liked the visuals and the idea of it, and the actors were really good. So yeah, I'll look into it. Or I'd say you could commission me, but I'm not really taking commissions anymore, which I guess is a good thing. When an artist reaches the point where they don't have to take commissions, it's kind of satisfying. Not that I don't like them. I've had actually really, really good experiences doing commissions. It's kind of a different beast. You're working with another person and you're trying to get something that they want, and it's different than working for yourself. I may open up commissions again at some point, but right now I have like a lot of other things in the pipe, and I just don't really have enough free time to fit them in so much, but who knows? I may go back to it at some point. Okay, I need to blend a little bit, so give me a moment. Let's see here. It's interesting kind of trying to interpret a color comp that's sort of abstracted like this. I got sort of those patterns randomly by just like layering images, and I just kind of liked how it looked. So I'm trying to kind of emulate that while keeping it feeling painterly and natural. So yeah, and this, I have to be mindful though of my values, which I'm always encouraging you guys to do, because I know that her cape here, her robe, is going to be black, so I want to make sure that the values in between there are light enough that we can still see the shape of that, which will be importante shortly here. Okay, next I have a question from Desire J, and she says, "Hey Leilani, I am a college-aged artist, and I have a dilemma about social media." Oh boy, we were kind of just talking about this, weren't we? Yeah, so let's see what you want to know. On one hand, I know that starting early with social media can't really hurt me as an artist, but on the other hand, I've been trying to gain an audience with no luck. I think this might be due to me not having a set style or brand. Consistently posting without any real audience is kind of discouraging. Do you think I should abandon social media and try to develop a clear brand style? Or do you think I should just continue posting my mismatched content and hope for the best? Thank you for your inspiration and input. That is a really, really good question, and a challenging one. I really need to think about that. I did not do that. Really, I was sort of sharing my journey with you guys, as many of you know. If you take a look at my oldest videos, you can see that like I was very much still trying to get a feel for my own style, and I kind of took you guys along with me on that journey. This piece I'm doing here today is like leaps and bounds kind of different than what I started doing. So was that the right way? Was that the best way? I don't know. It worked for me. I personally think that you should continue to share your process. I made certain connections and fans that in my very early days that are still very devoted to my work when I just started, even though I've changed. So that's meant a lot to me, to have people who were kind of there at the beginning, cheering me on during my artistic exploration. So I think, I mean, it's hard. It takes time. Also, be patient with yourself. I mean, I'm not sure how long you've been posting or, how long you've been on your social media, but Mine has taken many years. I started on YouTube in 2009, so if that kind of gives you an idea, and use lots of different mediums. If you find that Instagram isn't really working for you, maybe try a different platform. I know there's other platforms you might want to try out. Twitch. I know Twitch is becoming more popular. I'm considering trying that, or try YouTube. And just kind of do your best to be your authentic self. And don't ever wait for that perfect style, that perfect brand to happen, because it doesn't really work like that. We're all like a work in progress, right? Like, if I had waited to find my brand, I never would have posted a thing, because I'm still refining it constantly trying to learn, constantly trying to improve, refine, and define my brand. So if you wait for it to come to you, it won't really, because all artists, it's a lifetime journey of experimenting and failure and successes along the way. So I encourage you, keep at it, and do open yourself up to learning and being free to experiment. The awesome thing about where you are now is that you can still really do that without too much kickback from your audience. So I know I talked about this maybe on my last paint along or on another one, and it definitely applies to me, but I like to use someone like Jasmine Beckett Griffith as an example, because she has a very, very distinctive brand. Starts going, I want to experiment and do something totally different. Her fan base is going to have a difficult time being receptive to that. So while her brand is so strong and awesome, and she's been very successful, she also is a little bit trapped in how far she can experiment and push things now. And like I said, I'm sure I don't know exactly. I've never asked her if she feels that way, or if she really, really just loves what she does and she feels passionate about every piece she does. I personally feel like I don't want to get trapped too tight, because I love experimenting. That's one of my favorite things about art. And I like problem solving and trying something a little bit different with every piece I do. And sometimes I beat myself up about that, because I'm like, what is your problem? You're not cohesive. Like, pick a freaking set of steps to follow every time, and keep your painting process similar. And I don't really do that, but I'm starting to be more forgiving of myself and being like, well, maybe that's okay. Maybe each one can be its own experience, its own thing to learn from, and I can get an interesting and slightly different result every time without being too formulaic, if that makes sense. So I hope that kind of helps you. It's a delicate balance, I would say. It's a delicate balance between branding yourself and not trapping yourself, and not emulating a brand because you think that will make you successful. Definitely don't do that. Definitely don't ever fall into that trap where you're like, that artist, they're getting a lot of likes, they're getting a lot of followers, I'm going to try to emulate that style. I definitely encourage you guys to avoid that as much as possible, because I think it only ends up trapping you later on. Because if you get some popularity for emulating an artist, then where are you going to go from there? And I had an instructor in college once, and it was really great advice. And he says, don't ever emulate an artist unless you can do it better than them. And that sounds like kind of bitchy in a way, but unless you are going to improve it and do it better, don't emulate them. Because I would never try to emulate someone I would never try to emulate Jasmine or Audrey Kawasaki. you can be inspired by them. That is totally fine. I borrow lots of inspirations from lots of different artists, but trying to do what they do because it's trendy will only hurt you in the long run, and you will only learn to emulate and not interpret reference. So if that makes sense, you don't want to get used to copying an artist so much that when you have a real photograph or real things to use as reference, that you don't know how to interpret that. So that was a little bit of a side rant, as I like to do. But I hope that gives you a little bit of food for thought. Okay, so while I let my first background layer kind of dry, I will probably do another couple of layers just to give it a little bit more depth. But at this point, I don't want to touch too much, because is that a song? I don't know. I feel like it is. I don't want to touch it too much, because then you'll start lifting it off. So acrylic paint kind of has this magical dry time of, you can blend it and work it for a while, but then if you start overworking it, you'll actually start lifting it off. So it's kind of like a tricky thing to figure out how the amount of timing. You just kind of figure it out through practice. So in the meantime, I'm going to start blocking in some of the darks so that we can really start to see this shape come through. And this is going to be fun, because I can kind of just start carving in the shapes. And I really like often thinking about painting like sculpture or clay, and like kind of carving out shapes, big shapes. So always think big to small when you're painting. You want to carve out those big silhouettes first, and then put your detail in later. It's really gonna give you a much more pleasing piece. I saw a tutorial recently by a very popular YouTube artist, actually, and I love this artist's work, and I follow their work. But they were doing a how to draw tutorial. I think it was drawing, maybe it was painting. And I actually quite disagreed with their recommendation to artists. And they were saying that when you're drawing or you're painting, be very, very timid and make very light lines so you don't really commit, and that you can always go back. And I don't necessarily think that works for everybody. Some people really like to get more aggressive and then carve away at it. And I kind of prefer to draw that way. Like, who cares? If there's a line there, you can white it out, you can erase it. If you're working with something very forgiving like charcoal, you can just wipe it out. So I don't really necessarily agree with the timid approach. Some people like to paint with an underpainting, where they kind of sketch in lightly with paint. And that, that's totally fine if it works for you. But I noticed that this artist was kind of recommending, they were doing little very light details without much thought about the planning of the overall shapes or composition. So I don't personally recommend that, because I just think it's a lot harder to correct your problems later when you're getting too detailed too soon. So this artist was starting out and doing very detailed little eye, and then doing a very detailed another eye. And in art school, they don't teach you that way. So I don't know if they're self-taught or not. But we usually learn to, if you're going to draw an eye, you're going to literally carve out the ocular cavity with shadow, because most of your eye is actually kind of in shadow, right? Because it recedes into your skull. Like, this is actually a really good example, right? Because you can see that the ocular cavity goes back, and then your eye, there's a highlight because it's coming forward slightly. So that's how I was taught. And I think that anatomy and design and your overall piece will be more successful if you think of creating art and drawing that way. So that's just my 2 cents on it. But if that tutorial helped you, or you prefer to do it in the style of that artist, more power to you. Like I said, it's art. There's no rules. There ain't no rules, fools. It's however you feel. But I just kind of I recommend getting a little messy, getting a little aggressive with it. You can refine it later. I like to do that, and I am having so much more fun being more aggressive when I draw. I now use a heavier pencil, like a really fat one that makes dark lines, and I just kind of like carve away at it. And then sometimes I'll photocopy it, I'll white it out. I like to do several process stages now. And it's so much more satisfying for me because for so long I've tried to figure out, well, that artist does it that way. Maybe that's how I should be doing it. And, you know, like I said, I get very, I get kind of overwhelmed and intimidated by people's sketchbooks because they do these really, really beautiful, refined sketchbook drawings. And I'm like, I don't do that. I draw really, really rough at first. And my preliminary sketches are like not much to look at most of the time. I'm trying to see if I have any around here. But so this is actually was an early stage of this painting. And you can see maybe that the face actually changed a little bit in the process. I did a photocopy. This is a photocopy of the drawing, and I was just getting really heavy strokes and lines to carve out that shape. And then I started refining again on another photocopy. So I'm not afraid. Photocopies make me brave because I can always go back a step, and I really, really like that. This was another one that I was working on where I am working on now, which I'm super excited about. I'm doing this Space Girl piece, and I kind of dropped in this shape of a helmet, and then I just started drawing on top of that. This is just a photo that I just lightened up, and then I just started sketching around it. So, you know, find your process, you know, and never feel like because one artist's process is successful that it's going to be right for you too. So anyways, that was this kind of a burst of creative joy for me when I started to not beat myself up about it. I used to think that because I don't do a whole lot of raw drawing and sketching that I was somehow cheating or was a failed artist or whatever. And my husband recently told me, he's like, just because you prefer a different process doesn't mean that you're doing it the wrong way. If you're able to get to the results you want in a faster, more efficient, less painful way, then absolutely do it. And in his industry, in concept art, he does that all the time. And a lot of times their deadlines are so fast that he doesn't have a whole lot of time for just brainstorming and sketching. So he's like, I gotta piece this thing together. I've got to use several photo references. I've got to paint directly into photos sometimes. And he always, of course, puts his own style into it. His style is very unique. He doesn't really do super photo collage pieces, but he does use them occasionally to speed up the creation process. So that's kind of just my 2 cents on that. That wasn't even a question. I just started ranting. That's what you're here for, right? So this is cool. I've already kind of seen some of this shape come out, which is super exciting for me. Okay, but let's move on to another actual question because I know you guys are waiting patiently. I have one here from Ana Rita M, and she says, hello, you have a huge fan from Portugal. Oh, that's so cool. Hey, actually, you know what? Portugal is on my next place I want to travel to. I am, as far as I know, about 75% Portuguese. So well, that's not right. I don't know. I'm all mixed up. But anyways, my great grandparents are from Portugal. My people are from the Azores, I'm told. And so I really want to visit there and kind of see where some of my heritage comes from. I have a friend that's been to Portugal, and she said she's traveled all over the world. And she said that Portugal was one of her favorite places that she ever went to, and that everyone there is amazing. The food's amazing. The people are amazing. So I'm very, very excited to hopefully go to Portugal in the near future. But anyway, I digress. So it's great to have a fan there. That's very exciting for me. But her question says, can you please tell me what you use to make the color effect the blending stuff. So this was on my last paint along where I was painting my my piece Joy, that was a self-portrait. And I'm not totally sure what you're referring to, the color effect, the blending stuff. I did some blending in the bottom of that piece that was sort of like a rainbow effect. I didn't use anything specific for that. I was just using my fingers to literally blend them in. It wasn't really an actual technique or anything. I was just sort of experimenting. I may have used some, let's see if I have some around here. I don't see any. I may have used a little bit of matte medium. I can't find a bottle of it. Oh, no, that's not it. Anyways, I may have used some acrylic medium to thin the paint a little bit. I can't remember if I did or not. Occasionally I do use that, and it will sort of thin the paint without water, and it will extend it and make it more translucent. I may have used that and maybe a little bit of water, but I didn't actually use any specific like product or anything for that. All right, my next question comes from Nanny Mouse 1987, and she says, "Hey there, I love all your work. Keep it going." Yay, I plan to. I watch all your videos and follow you on all your media. Oh, thank you. You are awesome. My question is, what was your favorite part of your wedding? All the love. Oh, thank you, Nanny Mouse. You're very sweet. Oh gosh, that's a hard question. And I just realized that, like, I totally, like, forgot to, like, officially share all of that and show you guys my wedding art and everything. God, I suck. I don't know. It totally got away from me. So I promise I will get ahead of that. It was one of those weird things that, like, you told so many people, and, like, I shared so much of the photos and everything that I totally forgot that I didn't actually share it here. I was going to do a couple of special little episodes where I showed you guys wedding stuff, but if you're still down to see it, I will still do it, unless you guys are like, okay, don't care anymore, girl. That was like 6 months ago. Speaking of that, we are still like not done with our thank you notes. We're horrible people. It's so hard. Like, we had a lot of guests at our wedding, and I'm like, that's literally hundreds of handwritten cards that I have to do. Well, Brian did some of them. But I feel bad. So if you were actually at my wedding and you watch my videos, I love you. Thank you for the gift. I'm still going to write you a note, I swear. But oh God, my favorite part of the wedding, that's so hard. I don't know. It was all, magical. It truly was. I don't know. They always say, like, be careful not to get too many expectations about your wedding. And I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who knows me or was there, I feel I was a low-key, low-maintenance bride. I really was not very stressed. I was not stressed until the night before, and I didn't sleep at all, and I was just like, and I wasn't that I was like nervous to marry Brian or anything. Like, I love him, and I was like, that doesn't scare me at all. We're practically an old married couple anyway. But it was just that everything was going to go smoothly, and that everyone was going to enjoy themselves. And I mean, I know I'm going on a tangent, but actually a lot of my anxiety was that I don't see a lot of people on a regular basis. I mean, you guys, like my buddies out there in internet land, but like, I'm just alone in my studio like 7 days a week. And I see Brian, of course, in the evening, but for the most part, I don't have a whole lot of like daily social interaction. So sometimes when I just like go to the grocery store, I'm like, people are talking to me. But a wedding is like the biggest social interaction thing ever. You have to talk to everybody and smile and be friendly. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be meeting a bunch of people I don't know. Some of Brian's family I'd never met. And I want to, I don't know, impress them and stuff. So it was stressful. I was really actually more having social anxiety more than anything about my own wedding. But to answer your question, I don't know. Our ceremony was amazing. We had like the best, what do you call it? The person that marries you. She was a minister, but it wasn't really a religious wedding. But it was, I don't know. We laughed, we cried, We had this freaking awesome vintage car that picked us up. You know what? I'm just gonna do a wedding episode and like gush and tell you guys all about it. But it was a magical day, and I was very, very lucky to have all my amazing family there and awesome friends, and it was beautiful, and we were really creative. I was very proud of my family, my mom, my aunts and stuff, that we put a lot of it together ourselves. We did not spend a ton of money. We were just very creative with things, and we had a lot of people pitch in and help us with the decor and help us with the flowers and things that can end up costing a lot of money. So yeah, it was awesome. It was my dream come true wedding, and I always told people I want to feel like Audrey Hepburn in Funny Face, and I totally did. So goal achieved. Okay, well, I gotta change the battery in my camera, so I will be back in just a moment. Okay, there we go. New battery installed. All right, next I have a question from Monica S. And she says, I was wondering about the wood panels that you paint on. Is it necessary to gesso them and prime them and all that stuff? Because then the wood is just white and it doesn't even look like wood anymore. Is it possible to just paint on wood without all this before process? Okay, yeah, so that's a good question. Yes, it is. That's like, I guess you mean like Audrey Kawasaki or someone who paints on wood, but she does not paint. I don't know how she treats her wood pantels. I don't know her process of how she treats her panels, but I can pretty much guarantee they're not untreated. And the reason for that is because depending on where you get your wood from, art stores sell wood that is usually like ready for painting. But just like finding a piece of wood or something like outside, there's like acids and things in the wood that can actually erode your painting over time. So for example, she's referring to, so these are what I paint on, which is gesso artboard. And this is pre-gessoed. This is an art panel that is masonite, basically, that is already ready to paint on. I like it because typically I'm not incorporating wood texture, so it doesn't matter to me. I just like the smoothness of the pre-gessoed, and it saves me a lot of work. Occasionally, if I'm on a budget or if I want a very specific size of wood panel, but I can't find it pre-gessoed, then I'll buy something like this, which is basically just tempered hardboard that you can get at Home Depot. You need to treat this, though, because it is not set up for paint. You can paint acrylic on it. So here's the thing. There's a lot of science about this, and I would probably recommend that you look into it further if you really want to know. But typically, like I said, this is not meant for the longevity of a painting. So this may contain, like I said, acids or chemicals in it that they use to treat this, because this is supposed to be for hardware, for like home improvement. So we don't know, maybe your painting will last 100 years instead of 200 years. Acrylic paint is made of a very sturdy plastic, so typically it does last a long time and it will stick to this. This though is somewhat absorbent since it's untreated or ungessoed, so you may get some results that you don't like because it's going to be sucking up some of the paint. It's porous, right? So if you, like I said, you'll have to do a little bit more research on this because I don't do this per se, but I can guarantee you, I'm guessing that Audrey Kawasaki treats her wood panels with something. She either coats them in a clear varnish or seals them in some way so that they're ready to paint on. So I'm not sure. You may want to look into it. Ask the art store. They do sell like raw wood, like wood panels that are appropriate for painting. So I would recommend starting with that, unless you want to do a lot of research on like found wood and how to prepare found wood and stuff. So there is a little bit of a process to that. But basically it's to make sure that your painting is going to last a long, long time. So for example, if you just like do a oil painting on cardboard, it may look really cool and you get like a pastel-y effect, but they tend to just kind of erode over time, and they'll like fall apart and they won't last as long as you would want your painting to last if you're going to do all that work. So that's really the reason for it, is to protect your work over time. So you may want to be mindful of that. So, okay. Next I have a question from Kristen Alicia C. And she says, what name did you pick? Well, I guess she means what drag name did I pick, because I was talking about that on my last episode. And I think I told you guys on my last video, but I decided to name my drag persona Leilani, which is a joke about my high school nickname, which was lay on me. Okay, it's not because I let people lay on me, okay? It was because my name was Leilani, and they thought that was funny, and they called me, come on, I want to lay ya, and then it's turned into lay on me, and then so lay on me is like kind of like a tongue-in-cheek version of that. So that's where it came from. You guys came up with some nasty names, okay? I was reading them in the comments and I was just dying. It was so funny. So thank you guys for giving me a laugh. You actually had some really great drag name suggestions, and it was very entertaining to read your drag name suggestions. Okay, next I've got a question from Dr. J Zilla 101. Where did you get that t-shirt? I love your videos and your art style, but I'm kind of obsessed with your shirt. I think that you were talking about my the Bob Ross t-shirt I had on. I'd have to look it up, but honestly, I saw it on one of those like Facebook ads. So I don't know if it was like T Fury or something. I think it was one of those. You know how those like pop up like based on your interest, and it's like, oh, because you're interested in Bob Ross, here's this t-shirt that we're selling for the next 48 hours or whatever. It was one of those. So I don't know, you might have to look around online. I ordered it because I saw it and I was like, okay, you got me. I love that one. That's really cool. So I ordered it from one of those recommended ads on Facebook. So they suckered me in with my hero, Bob Ross. Okay, April P says, have you considered collaborating with other YouTube artists outside of Bad Apple, and would you ever host a competition with a theme and prizes for the winner? Cool, thanks, April. I have done competitions. I have done a few contests, actually, and I love them, and I might be about time to do another one. You are right. I haven't done one in a while, and it's just because I've been so busy. I apologize. It's hard, because now with my class, I'm trying to keep up on, like, grading and making sure that those guys are the priority, because, you know, they're paying customers. And I'm trying to keep up with engaging with them and making sure that their work is kind of my priority. But I would love to do a contest. Maybe if you guys would be down, you could, one of the prizes could be that you could win a free enrollment to my class or something. So yeah, I will think about it. As far as collaborating with other YouTube artists, I have not really considered that. No one's asked me, really. So here's my thing about collaborations. I mean, not to sound like a snob about it, but collaborations are kind of difficult because they're fun. I have done them occasionally in the past, but you know, I do this as a business, and collaborations are kind of like just kind of like a fun side project, because typically both artists agree like either to not sell the image, or they each get a percentage of the image, or there's like a lot of like copyright things involved in that if you collaborate with another artist. And since the primary reason that I paint and make art is to sell it and support myself and feed my guinea pig children, collaborations aren't really something that I seek out very much, because I don't know, there's just like a lot of like kind of legal stuff. So of the collaborations I've done, both artists, we agreed not to sell the piece. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, you can if you want to work that out beforehand. But yeah, like I say, it's kind of more like a just for fun thing for most artists. And I don't know. I paint slowly, so it's hard for me to have a lot of time to just do fun projects like that. I wish I could. All right. Now I have a question from Lydia S. And she asks, my question is, do you have a bucket list and can you tell us some of the things on it? I don't have a bucket list. I should maybe. I think that's actually kind of interesting. I just put my hand in my paint and smudged it over here. Okay, no, be careful. I would like to do more traveling. I kind of feel like I got a bit of the travel bug last year when we went to Japan and Thailand. And I absolutely loved my experience and I want to go back there. I guess you're supposed to pick new things to do for your bucket list. One of mine used to be that I wanted to get back into ballet and finish my point training. That was something that I always really wanted to do. And now that I'm getting older and older, I don't know if I'll ever get back to it. I took ballet for many years when I was young and in high school. And I took a point class. I finally got to point level. And I took point for an entire year. And my teacher would not let me get my point shoes. I had to, it was really weird. She's like, your feet aren't ready. So I did all the point exercises, all the point training, and she never let me have my own point shoes. And she let other students in the class get point shoes, and they were all doing everything on point, and I was just doing them in regular ballet shoes. And frankly, I was kind of bitter about that, and I quit that dance studio after that year. And I was like, I don't need her to boss me around. But it was kind of embarrassing because I think there was only a couple of us that she was like, oh, your ankles aren't strong enough or whatever. And so I never got to do it. I never got to really do it. And that was something that I have regretted in a way, that I gave up when I was that close. But now I'm so far out of practice. I've gone to a couple of classes since I've been an adult, but I'm not really sure if it's possible anymore. I mean, it's probably possible, but I would have to work really, really intensely and hard, and probably have even some private training or something to really get me there. And I don't know if that fits into my life anymore. It's dance was a really big commitment, and it takes a lot of time and again, refining your skills. And I just don't know, with my work, my career, my workload, I work a lot of hours a day. And while ballet would be good for it, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I want to do something else that's really intense. When I take classes, I do take dance classes. I usually take something that's a little bit more frivolous and fun and everything. So I don't know. That used to be something that I always wish I had done, but I don't know. Never say never. Okay, next I've got a question from Gina R. And she says, I feel like your name already sounds like drag. Okay, thank you. Actually, I met someone not that long ago, and he was like, if I ever do drag, can I use Leilani Joy? And I'm like, yes, absolutely, please. I would love someone to be a drag version of me. That would that's on my bucket list. Anyway, Gina's question for me is, have you ever watched the show Please Like Me? I haven't, because all I watch is reruns of Law and Order SVU. No, I don't even know what that one is. I have not heard of that. If I can stream it, I can find it, so I may look into it. Thanks for the suggestion. If I watch it, I'll come back and give you my 2 cents on it. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions I have for today. Crazy enough, I got through a lot of them, and also went on some side rants at the same time. But so let me get you guys' 2 cents on this. But I'm thinking of doing on the next episode. I'm thinking of doing a like frequently asked questions edition, because I get a lot of these same questions over and over again, and I have some of them, or I have most of them posted on my blog, but it's a lot to read, I know, and it's like not that fun. So I'm thinking of doing an episode where I actually respond to those frequently asked questions and give you some more candid feedback on them, and then I'll have kind of like a video that people can check out if they want to know some of those FAQs. So whatever you guys think. You can still post your questions for me though below with the hashtag AskLJ, and I can do it on a future paint along even if I don't do it on the FAQ episode. So keep those questions coming. Keep on painting. Keep ignoring the haters. Keep doing you. Be your authentic self. And I'm so proud of you guys. I've seen such great work on Instagram under the hashtag Leilani Look. So thank you guys for sharing with me what you're working on. It's always an honor for me that you would like to spend your creative time listening to me jabber on about stuff. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys on another episode of Art Nouveau or the Paint Along very soon. See ya!